It's 8 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski. This is Northern Light for Thursday, July 11th.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. Parts of the North Country are flooding after severe storms ripped through the region yesterday. In Lowville and Lewis County, videos on Facebook showed roads turned into rivers.
When you're standing next to some of the rapids, you can hear the sound of just the branches breaking and the rocks just tumbling down and the water just roaring. It's like something out of a doomsday movie or something.
Yesterday, we spent some time talking about the role social media plays in children's lives and heard from North Country educators and parents. Today, the perspective of some high school students through song.
Nowhere to hide, you're their prey. They can track you all day. Everyone puts their life on a screen.
And we'll wrap up the show with a conversation with a wildlife conservationist and TV host, Jeff Corwin. He's giving a talk in Lake Placid on Saturday. All that's coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us. Support for Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio comes from AdirondackExplorer.com and AdirondackAlmanac.com, presenting daily updated news on public policy, environmental issues, and local communities in the Adirondack Park. And by Cronin's Golf Resort, regional destination for golf, dining, and lodging in the southern Adirondacks. Details at Cronin'sGolfResort.com.
Northern Light. I'm Catherine Wheeler.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Heavy rains and severe thunderstorms barreled through the North Country yesterday and overnight, the leftovers of Hurricane Beryl. The rain flooded homes, basements, and roads, washing some roads away. The National Weather Service confirmed tornadoes in Redfield in Oneida County and in Osceola in Lewis County. Many other parts of the North Country were under tornado and flash flood watches overnight.
In Essex County, a state of emergency is in effect. Emergency responders are reporting significant flash flooding and is continuing in Essex and south central Franklin County this morning. The National Weather Service has issued a flood warning for the Bouquet River in Willsboro. Flood stage is 8 feet. The river is expected to crest at 8.5 feet this morning. At 8 feet, minor lowland floodings of fields and poor drainage areas along the river is expected in portions of Willsboro, Essex, Westport, and Elizabethtown. High water will approach Decker and Merriam Forge roads in Westport. Non-emergency personnel who work for Essex County are asked to stay home this morning until 11. The county says it needs the morning to further assess damage to roads and bridges.
Lewis County appears to have been the hardest hit in the region and is under a state of emergency. The sheriff is urging people to stay off the roads. In Lowville, videos on Facebook showed roads turned into rivers. Water rushed through neighborhoods and into people's homes. Emily Russell has the details.
The North Country Family Health Center is based in Watertown, but it's really a network of facilities. It runs a few primary care offices in the Watertown area, and it has...
Excuse me, that was the wrong audio.
The rain started slow at first. A little fell Wednesday morning, then it stopped, then it started again in the afternoon. This is sound from a video shot by Jeremy Lee in Lowville on Wednesday. You can see big droplets of water running off of roofs. Someone is walking down the road in a raincoat. Lee says by Wednesday afternoon, the rain had filled streams and overflowed into the roads. But it wasn't dangerously bad until it was.
Within like a 10-minute span, it went from just a little bit in the road to the entire road was whitewater rapids.
And in another video Lee shot, water is surging out of the woods and into his family's neighborhood. One home is probably 2 or 3 feet underwater. Lee's mother and grandmother were evacuated from their home. They're safe and staying with relatives. He says the force of the water through his hometown was unbelievable.
When you're standing next to some of the rapids, you can hear the sound of just the branches breaking and the rocks just tumbling down and the water just roaring. It's like something out of a doomsday movie or something.
Lewis County issued a no unnecessary travel advisory on Wednesday afternoon because of the flooding. Lowville Academy flooded with water, as did the school's new turf field. Along with severe flooding, people in parts of the North Country, including Lewis County, braced themselves for a possible tornado. A tornado was confirmed in the Oswego town of Redfield near the Tug Hill Plateau. Shannon Reuter was at home in Lowville when she first heard about the threat.
I caught the emergency alert on my phone about the tornado warning shortly after 2. So my son and I camped out in the basement until about 3 when that expired.
Then another tornado warning came at around 4. So Reuter and her son went back downstairs. It was around that time that water started flowing into her home. At its highest level, Reuter had about 7 inches of water in her basement.
Once everything really started slowing down, like the rain stopped and, the water stopped coming in so quickly, it was just, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Her sump pump had stopped working. She didn't have waiters to get downstairs into the basement. And then she said she saw lights from a fire truck outside. They had heard her basement had flooded.
In that moment, the stress just went away. It was so amazing to see them here. I don't know how they found me, how they knew, but it was just, that's one less thing for me to deal with.
The local fire crew helped get Reuter's sump pump back on. But heavy rains returned Wednesday evening. Just 20 minutes after we talked, Reuter texted and said it was pouring again and her sump pump was struggling. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio.
As of this morning, State Route 12 is closed in Lowville in the vicinity of State Route 26. State Route 812 is closed in the New Bremen area from Van Amber Road to Arts Road, and 2 main state highways in Lewis County are closed.
Some roads in the Adirondacks have also been impacted by flooding. Route 9N is closed in both directions between State Route 73 in Keene and US 9 in Elizabethtown. It's also closed in Westport. State Route 22 is closed in both directions in Essex between Walker Road and Main Street. And State Route 30 is closed in both directions in Long Lake, Indian Lake, Altamont, and in the village of Tupper Lake, 1 lane may be blocked. And US Route 9 is closed in both directions between Duntley and Tracy Roads in North Hudson.
In a briefing yesterday evening, Governor Kathy Hochul said the rain was causing damage from Jamestown in western New York all the way up here to Plattsburgh. She called the storm, quote, highly unusual for this time of year and urged residents to stay vigilant. She warned that even as the rain lets up, more flooding may develop in the North Country as rivers and creeks overflow their banks. The state has dispatched road and emergency response crews across New York. We'll continue to have updates on the flooding and the response throughout the day here on North Country Public Radio.
Authorities say an Albany County man drowned in Long Lake last week. Forest rangers and the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office responded to the marina late on the night of July 4th. Witnesses said 2 people had jumped off the dock and couldn't be found. Rangers say they searched overnight and found 1 swimmer out of the water. The following morning, divers found 66-year-old David Heenan deceased. His body was turned over to the coroner.
Landfills are a leading source of methane emissions in the United States, exacerbating climate change. To manage those emissions, many New York landfills capture and burn them off, which is better than releasing the methane, but it still has problems. WSKG's Rebecca Redelmeyer visited a landfill in the Southern Tier where they're trying something new. Here's her story for the New York Public News Network.
Walking around the entrance to the Steuben County landfill in the town of Bath, it doesn't look like what you'd expect. Birds fly overhead and grassy hills bristle peacefully in the wind. This part of the landfill no longer receives waste, so it's kind of bucolic. Just below the surface, however, it's teeming with activity. Waste is decomposing, breaking down and creating methane, one of the most potent greenhouse gases. To avoid releasing that gas into the atmosphere, the county previously installed a series of underground pipes to capture the landfill's emissions. In recent years, they burned all that gas to turn it into carbon dioxide. That makes it less harmful than methane, but still damaging and pretty useless. So Steuben County was looking for a better approach, and they say they found it in a technology developed in France.
It's a big day. It's a big day today. I'm personally overly excited.
Tanguy Largeau is with the French company Waga Energy. He addresses a crowd of county officials and journalists gathered at the landfill recently. He's unveiling the new facility called a Waga Box. It separates methane from other landfill emissions to create so-called renewable natural gas, which can replace fossil fuels. The facility is predicted to produce enough energy to power 4,000 homes a year, saving thousands of tons of carbon dioxide emissions.
We are helping communities to produce a local natural gas, which is making the community more resilient.
The company has other facilities in Europe and Canada. This is their first one in the United States. Inside the noisy machine, gleaming metal pipes filter and process the gas. Waga has paid for the project. The company makes money by selling the gas it generates to the local utility. If the machine produces enough gas, the county also receives a share of the profits. County Manager Jack Wheeler is celebrating the investment.
Here we are, and it is already producing renewable natural gas at rates that exceeded our projections and our expectations.
Waga's promotional materials say they're turning pollutants into profits. It's a win-win-win, right? Well, critics like Josh Berman, a staff attorney with the Sierra Club, say that profit potential could actually be a problem.
Landfill gas is a little bit tricky because when you're commodifying the gas that comes out of it, you're actually creating an incentive to produce more gas from the landfill.
In other words, if you're making money from landfill emissions, you don't have an incentive to reduce the waste that creates those emissions. There are two other concerns environmentalists I spoke with have with this kind of project. One is that they expand fossil fuel infrastructure, even as the state has committed to reducing its reliance on that system.
Once you've got the pipeline, it makes other fossil natural gas or fossil gas systems more likely and more profitable.
That's Peter Lehner with the environmental law group Earth Justice. Essentially, he says pipelines built for these projects can actually extend the life of the fossil gas system too. In fact, in Steuben County, Corning Natural Gas expanded a pipeline to connect to Waga's project. The other concern is that there are more environmentally friendly ways to turn landfill emissions into energy, with no risk of spills as gas is piped around the country. That includes turning it into electricity on site or using the gas locally to fuel landfill operations. Here's Lehner again.
This may be a good way to clean up pollution, but not as a very good way to generate clean energy.
Until 2019, a different company did turn Steuben County's landfill emissions into electricity on site. But officials say it stopped being profitable, so they looked for another solution. The federal government gives some incentives for companies making gas out of waste emissions, so it's become more economical. In the end, the county says Waga's proposal was the most attractive. This is the reality many municipal landfills face right now. There's trash breaking down, creating polluting methane gas that needs to be captured to prevent more climate warming. The Waga Box may not be a perfect solution, but most agree it's better than just burning off the methane. Already, the company has been in touch with neighboring Chemung County with the proposal to build another facility in New York. In Ithaca, I'm Rebecca Rettelmeyer for the New York Public News Network.
The State Department of Environmental Conservation announced last week that it acquired almost 600 acres in Essex County from the Adirondack Land Trust. The parcel in J is known as the Four Peaks Tract. The DEC says obtaining it could help expand recreational opportunities from the adjoining Beaver Brook trails in Wilmington Wild Forest. The DEC says it acquired the $575,000 property from the state's Environmental Protection Fund. The acquisition aligns with the state's goals of conserving 30% of its lands and waters by 2030. The Adirondack Park Agency will have to classify the Four Peaks Tract lands before they can be developed for recreation.
There's been an overall decline in cancer-causing chemicals in the Hudson River in recent years. That's according to the EPA's latest review of the PCB cleanup there. General Electric dumped untreated PCBs into the Hudson between the 1940s and the 1970s. The company was later ordered to pay for dredging of a 40-mile stretch, which wrapped up about a decade ago. Despite the decline in PCBs, EPA Administrator Lisa Garcia told reporters Wednesday that they need more data and studies from the river before the agency can determine if the cleanup is meeting its goals.
The conclusion for the need for more study and data collection does not mean that EPA will wait another 5 years to decide. And this is a really important point because we recognize that while the 5-year review report is coming out now, that soon we'll have more data that we can assess and evaluate and review.
General Electric issued a statement. The company said the Hudson River dredging project, quote, removed the vast majority of PCBs from the upper Hudson, led to broad declines in PCB levels, and is on track to deliver further improvements. A public meeting on the EPA's draft report will be held in August. The agency will accept public comments on it through October 8th.
3 North Country communities are set to receive harm reduction vending machines this summer. According to the Malone Telegram, they're part of an opioid response program through the Adirondack Health Institute. The machines will be located at Citizen Advocates Behavioral Health Urgent Care in Malone, the Ogdensburg Wellness Center, and the Cambridge Public Library. Items will include Narcan, fentanyl chest strips, and wound care kits. They'll be free and accessible to the public 24/7. The Telegram reports the goals of harm reduction include preventing overdoses and infectious disease transmission. The plan is to install these machines this month. This is NCPR. You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:17. Good morning. I'm Catherine Wheeler.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up, a conversation with wildlife conservationist Jeff Corwin ahead of his talk in the Tri-Lakes this weekend. That's in just a few minutes here on Northern Light, which is supported by Gray & Gray & Associates CPAs, an accounting and financial services firm in northern New York with offices in Canton, Potsdam, and Spring Hill, Florida. GrayCPAS.com. Music now by Tim Ellifritz out of Johnsburg.
Yesterday, we spent some time to talk about the role social media plays in children's lives and heard from North Country educators and parents. Today, the perspective of some high school students through song. Amy Feiereisel has our story.
Andrea Ellison is the pre-K through 12 music teacher at Parishville Hopkinton Central School. She teaches a songwriting class each year, and one of the units she teaches is about American protest songs.
America is built on protest songs, I think. And if you go back through the ages, you'll see that people were protesting the issues of their day.
Each year, Ellison has her students write their own protest song.
And I said, so what is the thing that makes you upset? What do you think we need to fix in our world? What's your biggest problem? And all of them said, it's the internet.
Ellison says they were really talking about social media, which she says her students, 3 10th graders and 2 9th graders, got really passionate about.
And one of them said, and sometimes parents just use it for babysitting, and sometimes it's a good thing that gets turned into a bad thing for kids. And really all it is the internet companies that construct the internet, making them addicted when they're really young. And I said, okay. So they wrote their protest song. Their song's called Life's Too Skibbity.
Skibbity toilet is a popular internet meme with kids, and the term skibbity has evolved to mean something either good or bad.
One of the refrain lines was, this life isn't that skibbity after all. And so they're saying that as you grow up, you find out that your addiction to the internet, to social media, to all of the things that keep on scrolling by is holding you back.
Nowhere to hide, you're their prey. They can track you all day. Everyone puts their life on a screen for all the world to see.
One of my students said, you can't pay attention to anything because everything just goes by so fast and your brain gets used to that, which I thought was pretty insightful for a 10th grader.
Screens distract kids with ease. Parents relieved of responsibilities. You can give them distraction, but it's not real interaction. This life ain't that skibbity after all.
One of the lines is, the world adapts to your needs. It's saying how it just kind of morphs into this thing that sucks you in and you don't even realize that you're in it. And so it was a pretty in-depth look at the world that they're actually growing up into. So,
worlds adapt to your needs. The words you think you can't see. You can say what you want and insult who you please. But is this really where you want to be?
Ellison's students recorded their song at SUNY Potsdam, and other high school students accompanied them on guitar and piano. Ellison says she really appreciates the way music gets her students to be in the moment and present with each other.
And that's the other thing that will combat the internet problem, is if we engage in hands-on activities with real people more. And that goes for adults and kids alike, right? We really just need to be a part of each other's lives that doesn't involve typing. That would be pretty great.
Ellison herself is a mother of 4 kids, now young adults, all raised in the age of social media. She says it's a huge challenge for parents and wishes there were more opportunities to talk about it.
I think we would benefit from more times where parents get together and just talk about this issue and say, this is what I do and what do you think about this? And, you know, how can we keep our kids safe, but also raise them in a world where they need to know that their social media is out there and they need to know how to interact with it. We can't hide from it. It exists, but we need to help each other figure out the right ways to help our kids.
And if you listen to Ellison's students' protest song, it's clear that kids are thinking about the same thing. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
Andrea Ellison told us about her class, her students, and their protest song through NCPR's Texting Club, when we asked you, our listeners, to share your thoughts on social media and its impact on kids. If you'd like to help shape NCPR's coverage, join our Texting Club. Just text the word NEW to 315-978-6277. That's the word NEW to 315-978-6277. This is NCPR.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's about 8:25. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. In just a minute, a conversation with a longtime wildlife biologist. But first, Monica has a look at the weather.
Yes, at last check, it was 71 degrees in Speculator, 77 in Fort Edward right now. In the Tri-Lakes, 67 degrees in Lake Placid. In Plattsburgh, it's 70 degrees. Messina, 67 with some light rain, and 67 degrees in Cape Vincent, too. We can expect some light rain this morning that should be clearing out by about lunchtime today, with temperatures rising into the lower 70s through midday. The National Weather Service has issued a flood warning for the Boquet River in Willsboro after yesterday's heavy rain and thunderstorms from Hurricane Beryl. Flood stage is 8 feet. The Boquet River is expected to crest at 8.5 feet this morning. Minor lowland flooding of fields and poor drainage areas along the river is expected in parts of Willsboro, Essex, Westport, and Elizabethtown. High water will approach Decker and Merriam Forge roads in Westport. The flooding has led to lots of road closures in the region. As of this morning, State Route 12 is closed in Lowville in the vicinity of State Route 26. State Route 812 is closed in the New Bremen area from Van Amber Road to Arts Road. 2 main state highways in Lewis County are closed. Some roads in the Adirondacks have also been impacted by the flooding, including Route 9N, which is closed in both directions between State Route 73 in Keene and US 9 in Elizabethtown. It's also closed in Westport. State Route 22 is closed in both directions in Essex between Walker Road and Main Street. State Route 30 is closed too in both directions in Long Lake, Indian Lake, Altamont, and in the village of Tupper Lake. State Route 30, one lane may be blocked on State Route 30 and Tupper Lake. And US Route 9 is closed in both directions between Duntley Road and Tracy Road in North Hudson. The state is continuing its emergency response, and we will be keeping up with the latest on the impact of the heavy rain and flooding throughout the day right here on NCPR.
The wildlife biologist and conservationist Jeff Corwin has hosted nature series for 2 decades on ABC and Animal Planet that focus on conservation efforts in places such as Florida and Alaska. Corwin is coming to the North Country this week to talk about his work at an event on Saturday morning in Lake Placid. Ahead of his trip, Corwin caught up with NCPR's Mitch Teich. Mitch asked him, after a lifetime of conservation efforts, whether he thinks things have changed for the better or if they've gotten worse.
Well, it's sort of a mixed bag. I would say some of the significant challenges we're facing today, these new unprecedented environmental challenges, are pretty catastrophic, and we are far worse. For example, globally, with plastics and with a rapidly changing climate. And we discovered that these challenges we face, a warming planet, environmental and habitat loss, species exploitation, all of these things, they don't work independently in a vacuum. They conspire with each other and feed off each other, make things worse, and often have a direct connection to each other. So you destroy a rainforest, that alone is catastrophic. But by destroying that rainforest, you are destroying the natural carbon bank. So you take the solution to climate change and you make it a culprit to climate change. And by destroying that Indonesian rainforest to grow palm oil, which we all use, from lip balms to the white stuff in those chocolate cookies, you are exposing endangered species to the black market wildlife trade. So all of these things are conspiring and impacted by each other. And that's the reality of the world we live in today. This impacts not only the natural world, which we have an aesthetic or cultural connection, but our very own survival is impacted. These storms of the centuries are now multiple storms every year. We're seeing these changes affect agriculture, the living conditions. We just came out of this huge heat wave where all the records were broken and people perished because of that. If you live in Florida, Florida's a big part of my career right now. I have a TV series in Florida. And Florida is like the poster child for everything going wrong with the environment. And it gets to a point today where, for example, you might not feel that connection, but you do feel impacted now because your insurance is gone, because the insurance companies have left Florida, or you can't drink the water, or the fish you ate has pollutants and pesticides, all of these problems. So in a way, we are in this new phase of environmental catastrophe because we are now feeling that heat. The good news is we have many examples throughout the world, and certainly in the United States and North America, where we have rose to the occasion, we've reversed a cataclysmic course, and we've restored an endangered species. We have countless species that were on the brink of extinction not so long ago within our lifetimes because we stepped up and